Welcome to Horror Year, where every story is a journey into the unknown. If you're brave enough to face your darkest fears and uncover the most chilling tales, you've come to the right place. So, dim the lights, turn up the volume, and subscribe to Horror Year. Your journey into terror begins now. On a night like any other, James received a phone call that would pull him into a nightmare beyond his imagination. A simple unknown number led to a voice that seemed to know his every move, a force that watched him from the shadows. What started as an unsettling prank quickly turned into a series of horrific encounters. Voices from the darkness, images too close for comfort, and a sinister warning he could no longer escape. Little did James know, answering that call would open a door to something far more terrifying than death itself. James received a call on a typical Friday night that would forever alter his course in life. He was alone himself in his flat, going through his phone as the rain pattered softly against the windows. James, half drowsy and bored, made the decision to go to bed early. However, his phone rang as soon as he switched off the lights. It was unclear what the number was. His curiosity sparked, and he took a minute to respond. Hello? Static filled the air for a few seconds. Just as James was about to end the call, a low, gravelly, distorted voice spoke out. James, I observe you. James felt his heart race faster. His gaze swept across the space, flitting between the windows. Even with the shades closed, he felt exposed and defenseless. He answered, trying not to show off. Who is this? A joke of some kind? James got chills down his spine when the voice laughed, a deep, eerie sound. For too long, you've been living comfortably. However, debts must be paid by everybody. Additionally, your allotted time has ended. The call ended. James threw his phone on the nightstand, blocking the number and brushing it off as some sort of twisted joke. He attempted to ignore the unusual call as he slid into bed, but it was difficult to fall asleep. The voice lingered in his mind, the way it appeared to burrow into his ears and brain. James saw dozens of missed calls the following morning, all from the same unidentified number. He attempted to listen to the voicemails, but all he could hear was a faint buzzing sound that sounded like a low hum. His nerves were shot and suspicion started to set in. He had the impression that someone or something was keeping an eye on him. The calls increased in frequency over the next few days, coming in at all times of day and night. James tried banning the number, turning off his phone and even changing numbers, but to no avail. Regardless of his actions, the calls persisted. Then the messages started to shift. He heard voices instead of just a low buzzing sound. However, they weren't the same as the one from the initial call. These were yelling voices. Their agony and distress were audible via his phone's speakers as they cried out and screamed. Occasionally, among the turmoil, the same gravelly voice would murmur his name after the cries. He yelled into the phone, "Enough! What do you want from me?" A protracted quietness ensued. The voice then reappeared, more frightening and frigid than before. "James, I told you. The allotted time has passed. We intend to pursue you." The call ended abruptly, and James felt a brief sense of relief. That might have been the case. Perhaps this nightmare was finally ending. Then again, his phone buzzed. There wasn't a call this time. It was a text message. James was shocked to see the message when he opened it. The picture that accompanied the message was a snapshot of his apartment complex taken right outside his window. Realizing that whoever or whatever had been calling him wasn't far away, his breath stuck in his throat. They were present. James ran to the window in a panic and pulled back the curtains. The street beneath was deserted, soaked with rain, and the pavement was covered in deep shadows created by the streetlight's brightness. Nevertheless, nobody was to be found. Once more, his phone buzzed, an additional text. It said to, "Look behind you." James shook and turned slowly around. A tall, black figure stood in his apartment's shadows, scarcely discernible in the low light. In the darkness, its eyes glowed like coals. The figure pounced toward James before he could yell, and then everything went black. James vanished from sight. The story became viral in the weeks that followed his disappearance. Some claimed that James had been dragged all the way down to hell. Some thought it was just another urban legend, a warning about the risks involved in picking up unexpected calls. However, one thing persisted. James's phone continued to ring. When inquisitive individuals attempted to respond, all they perceived was a low, gritty voice mumbling their name. James was never found. His story spread like wildfire, whispered in dark corners and discussed in hushed tones. Some claimed he had been dragged into the depths of hell, while others dismissed it as an urban legend meant to frighten the curious. But there was one thing no one could deny. James's phone kept ringing even after his disappearance. And when others tried to answer the call, all they heard was a voice, low and gravelly, whispering their name from the other side of the line.